Hello, it's Intangible. I'm back. Now, this morning we had a card actually in Australia, in boxing on Fox. Now, this card was quite interesting. It posed several betting opportunities and definitely had its share of spectacular events, should I say. I found the time to finally cover one of these cards, and I guess I kind of want to get back into that, but the card was headlined by Tim Tszyu's younger brother, Nikita Tszyu, where he fought his pro debut and won by a second-round knockout. But the main two fights I want to get into were Dennis Hogan, who made his return to the ring, coming off of a 6-round unanimous decision victory recently on the undercard of Tim Tszyu versus Takashi Inoue, against Tommy something. I can't quite remember his last name for some reason, his surname. But he made his return against journeyman Wade Ryan. And the other fight on the card was Liam Wilson attempting to avenge the single blemish on his record, young prospect, against a grossly overweight but still highly capable and powerful ambush sort of a fighter in Joe Noine. Now, Dennis Hogan, in his fight where he managed to win a unanimous decision, a comfortable unanimous decision at that, against Wade Ryan. This is a pretty predictable fight. Now, I was quite surprised to see that the odds for this fight had actually gone down a pretty significant amount. Odds, I believe, for this fight, I read on a bookie that odds actually had shortened down to like a minus 130 in Hogan's favor, which was basically free money. Hogan is 37 years old. He's been, around the block in his career. He's definitely seen better days. He's picked up some good wins against, Tyrone Brunson and Jimmy Kelly, who actually recently picked up a win against, 37-year-old prospect Kanat Islam, who's been a bit of a disappointing professional, but definitely a good win for him that Hogan was able to succeed in defeating, when he was around domestic level before stepping up. And Wade Ryan is someone who has had a fair bit of momentum in recent times. Is on a 4-fight winning streak and, is experienced. He's fought guys like Tim Tszyu. He managed to drop Tim Tszyu actually pretty heavily in the second round of their fight. And overall, his boxing ability has improved over recent times. But Dennis Hogan was still a class above him. I'm guessing odds shortened, considering Wade Ryan is a bit of a fan favorite down in Australia. But the difference in class was pretty much stark from the beginning. Dennis Hogan was using his feet in large part, using his jab, was much better in terms of controlling distance, was using more feints, was using more layered offenses in terms of setting up punches. Wade Ryan, the best moments of his work were when he was able to land the overhand left, which Hogan did prove to be a bit susceptible to. Hogan was trying to play a bit of a natural counterpuncher. He wasn't particularly active. He was mainly trying to just play the counterpuncher. He was leaning over his front foot, trying to draw Wade Ryan onto the inside. Ryan made an adjustment around the 4th or so round, where he effectively tried to set up the uppercut set up the uppercut over the jab. He was effectively lowering his volume, trying to force Hogan to step into his punches instead of vice versa, so that he can then set up the uppercut. But Ryan couldn't really hurt Hogan, and in large part he was overcommitting to his punches. Hogan was able to smother, he was able to clinch, and he was able to He was able to keep Ryan never in clinches in, say, like a Sean Porter type way, or someone like that, or even say like an even Masataka Taniguchi type way, he was never able to use his weight to push him against the ropes or force him to the perimeter. He was taking a lot. He was eating a lot of straight right hands on the way in, and never really got fully adapted to it. Hogan is not a top level fighter himself, but in spite of that, it's just the difference in class was still stark. Wade Ryan is about a journeyman caliber fighter. He can beat certain guys, maybe win an OPBF title, but Dennis Hogan is someone who can be a gatekeeper for world-class fighters. He's still not a particularly high-caliber guy, but he probably still has a little bit of a future. He could fight someone like, say, he could fight like an Artem Oganesian next. Even a Juan Carlos Abreu would make a decent fight, actually, for Dennis Hogan. I mean, he's coming off of a win against Kalakamet. Sadruddin Akhmedov is a potential, could be someone that Dennis Hogan could fight eventually. He just got dusted off by Tim Tszyu, but Hogan had his night against Munguia and has got several opportunities since then. I mean, his efforts against Munguia earned him a title shot against Jamal Charlo, where he got pretty much battered. I mean, but yeah, Hogan did what he had to do. He won comfortably. Now, the other fight I want to talk about is Joe Noine versus Liam Wilson. Now, Liam Wilson came in and won the first round. I really expected for Liam Wilson to win most of the quiet rounds, kind of as he did actually in the first fight. Noine is an ambush fighter. He's a puncher. And he tends to throw one or two shots at a time. He tends to fight in bursts. Noine is not someone who can really box with most guys of any significant caliber. But suddenly, out of nowhere, he got starched in the second round with a left hook. Now, I was originally going to bet on this fight, actually, as a part of a double accumulator, along with the Dennis Hogan fight where I was going to pick him on points, but once I saw that Joe Noine ended up turning up actually 8 pounds over the weight limit, actually over the lightweight limit itself, which it was an 130-pound fight. That was incredibly bizarre. I then just decided this was not a safe bet. Ultimately, Noine turned up to the fight in poor condition. He showed up with very little ambition and ended up getting starched. Now, the knockout was a bit peculiar because he got caught with the left hook, went down. It looked like he was out cold. He immediately got up and suddenly his corner was storming into the ring. It almost felt like the knockout was, and I'm not really a conspiracy theorist or anything, but it almost looked a bit superficial. But, I mean, would I be shocked if it was legit either? Not really. I mean, it was ultimately, the guy turned up grossly out of shape. Showed up with very little ambition, was incredibly fleshy. It seemed like he just kind of turned up for his paycheck, honestly. But Wilson ended up getting revenge nonetheless. He probably enters the top 12. Maybe not, but I guess he can progress his career from here. But it was a very strange fight. I suggest you guys take a look at that Joe Noine versus Liam Wilson fight and draw your own conclusions. It was a very bizarre fight. I've heard some stories out in Australia. Obviously, the iconic sort of dive. You have Danny Green's fight, where Danny Green effectively stormed the post-fight interview and was like, "Nobody here is as pissed off as I am." But I also know of a situation where some guy was actually offered money to take a dive against the current, I believe, number 1 ranked WBO fighter at 140 pounds, Liam Parrow, who could eventually be getting a title shot himself after the gifted Josh Taylor, vacates his titles. So, I mean, I wouldn't put anything past them. But, yeah, Dennis Hogan picks up a unanimous decision victory against Wade Ryan. And Liam Wilson picks up a second-round knockout victory over Joe Noynay. Have a good one.